But okie dokie, that did look like the last shop that we'll run into down here, unfortunately. Unless we're lucky with maybe some of this upstairs area. Maybe, just maybe, game. Do me a solid in that regard. Oh gosh, this is scarier than anywhere down there, just because there's a high priest. And I know firsthand just how powerful the messiahs of BO can be. Even if they're false prophets, like not every, I've won one hill arc, but the majority of my hill arcs have been false prophets, and they still absolutely wreck house going through the dungeon. Oh gosh, no, not them. Them. Perfect. Let's take out the wizard right away, of course, and that should be good. Oh gosh. Let's definitely do a little bit of a stretch here. I didn't realize how long I've been slumped over my keyboard here. There we go, just about through with Orc here. And another shop. Heck yeah. Ooh. Ring of Shadows is always a fun unrand art. The Umbra gives us a bonus to evasion and a bonus to not getting detected, I believe. Not too bad. And what else do we have? The Ring of Dawn could substitute the willpower that we just switched off of. And Ring of Ice, I guess we could... we don't need it, right? We have 1 pip of RC because of that switch. Oh me, oh my. I don't think I'll buy the Ring of Shadows. Not quite useful in this character since we already have a deficit to our evasion chance based on the sheer size of our creature. And we're not training evasion very much whatsoever. But the Ring of Dawn could maybe pick up just in case we run into a banished buddy right away. That might be nice to have. And same with See Invisible. I will actually buy. It's another one that I'd like to have on hand. Can pick up the rocks. The Ring of Shadows also cuts line of sight from 7 to 5. That is true. Though I never know how I feel about that. With certain characters, it's incredible just inherently. But so often, I find that the second I cut my sightline down, I immediately run into like a bunch of wizards that have horrifying spells that only have a short range, like Elven Annihilators. So the second they come into range, they're so close to being able to Lahudib's Crystal Spear you. But definitely with the stealth character, or I love that they added the Night Stalker mutation onto kobolds. I think that that's super fun. But as a thrower here, I definitely want that range because I want as many turns as possible to chuck large rocks at folks' faces. Ideally, at least. Okie dokie. We can also drop the Ring of Ice now that we have the Ring of Dawn. That's a nice little trade out in terms of inventory space. Wand of Charming can hit the deck because I don't need none of that crap. Just by this stage in the game, it's not crap, I should say. At this stage in the game, it's very unlikely to be effective. Can also drop these robes now that I have a different source of willpower. And looking pretty good. We can head out to the dungeon for sure. We could start shoals. I guess there's not too much of an issue with that, really. But at the same time, we have seen Invisible, so now we're totally set to deal with most of the issues that we'd find on these floors of the dungeon. And, ooh, the Roar of Battle, eh? I would like a Bailey. That's another good place to get throwing utensils. But only have 1 magic map in scroll, and I like to have 5 by the time we get to Zot, of course. But I think I will use it. Let's check out where we're heading here. That looks to be the place. So there are some better stairways. In fact, let's try and first try, never mind. Perfect. Get that right away, and then let's see what's waiting for us here. Oh, I'm so sorry, buddies. It was an absolute slaughter. And okay, this time around we have lots of inventory slots. The one time I remember to actually check inventory slots, we of course have an absurd amount, no problem whatsoever. And let's just start chucking. Nice amount of gold sitting at the end of this at the very least. Hopefully some other treasures as well. I feel like this is way too easy of a Bailey for the stage I'm at in the game now. Again, this is the nice part about being able to push through Lair a little bit earlier on runs, is you can often go back out to the dungeon and just relax for a bit. I say, well, also immediately internally flinching because I know that I'm going to live to regret those words as something horrifying comes out of the woodwork. But in general, you end up being much more powerful than you otherwise might be at this stage in the game, and that's fun. I guess we haven't opened up the inner sanctum yet, and that's where things will truly be determined in that regard. What have we got? Oh yeah, honestly, not that bad. Can you even take them one-on-one by just standing here? Oh, we do have some polearm friends. That's important. Let's take care of you. And you. Oof, okay. Gonna start taking bigger hits here, of course. Yeah, the Orc Warlord is tough, and especially with the reaching weapon makes it a pain in the butt. And all these knights buffing each other, but let's just blow some clouds through the place. Let us also do some quick checks here. So you're hitting us for 25 plus your hand axe, and then you're also mighted. 32 plus a bardiche, also mighted. So shouldn't be one hit away from death. Though, just earlier today I've been proven wrong in that regard. And more than that, we don't want to be just not one hit away from death. We want to be able to retreat if need be, so that would involve a turn of stepping onto the portal and going up through it, taking a hit. But still feeling alright. Could keep javelining. The only issue is if we do have to retreat, it gets kind of rough. I think what I might do is just do an early potion petition. Ooh, invisibility and might, or haste. I think I will go invisibility and might. Perfect. And then, let's see here. Your chances of hitting me have probably gone down, ideally. About 18% chance to hit me, and you're at 26% chance to hit me. That is much better. So let's, use javelins to try and take out that warlord. I guess we could try and kill the knights, and that's almost as good, but... Okay, there we go. I love it when they stand in a line like that. Beautiful. And they just continue to do so. No complaints whatsoever in my books. And finally, I'll probably even just switch to boomerangs to finish that off. Love to see it. So I used a couple of resources there, but oh my gosh, was it worth it. Holy crap. 2 scrolls of acquirement? Game, please, you shouldn't have. That's too sweet. And a glaive we don't need. Let's make sure there's nothing lying on the ground. Let's get the heck out of here and reap in the rewards. First scroll of acquirement. Ring of Intelligence, Manual of Bows, Dire Flail of Protection, Gold. Okay, you're making me realize why you were so generous, game. It was a bit of a joke, I see. But let's take the gold there and try again, shall we? This time we get an amulet that does have resist poison, which is something I'm struggling with right now. That would allow us to potentially head through Spider a bit sooner than we otherwise might be able to. Spirit Shield also isn't horrible because we have no use for our magic, so that does essentially give us extra hit points. On top of that, it also gives us extra regen because our MP regeneration is kind of added on to our health regeneration, which is pretty swanky. So I think I've convinced myself, and let's go for that amulet. Can drop the Eald regen amulet. I don't think I'll be using that. We'll just be switching between the reflection and this new piece of gold here. And let's keep her moving. In fact, let's drop the bishop now that we have a king from Zom's chessboard. Much, much better. And let's reconfigure some of our auto pickup here, make things a bit easier on the tail end. Don't need this, don't need this. Don't really need this. Nope. Nah. And what else? We can stop picking up amnesia probably. I forget what else I was just thinking of. Right, stones. Let's stop picking those up. Darts by this stage. I'll probably try and manually pick up Curari. Really, the chess piece matters? Only to me, because of aesthetics. King is just nice. I like the look of it. But in that regard, it definitely matters. Very much so. Don't you doubt it for a second. Aesthetics are the most important thing, after all, in this great big dungeon we live in. Because if you don't look good, what else do you have going for you? Especially when you're me and you constantly just run promising characters into the ground. I at least look pretty cool doing it. Oh, hello friends. Did not expect to see depths beasties here. Cyclops is nice though. I have been missing that shapeshifter better change before it gets up here. Perfect. Never a doubt. And perfect. What else do we have to deal with though, you son of a gun? Switch over to our boomerangs. We actually have so many boomerangs and we haven't even been through shoals yet. That is shocking. I guess the Bailey really did a number in that regard. But otherwise, not too bad here. Strange disturbance. Do I have See Invisible? I do, right? We gave ourselves... Yes. Perfect. Makes our lives just a wee bit easier here. Since we just miss out on a few points of AC to do so. And that should be just about it. Not too bad. We can start to run back now as more and more monsters come join us. I also alternate between remembering to use throwing and just completely forgetting and waiting turns like a fool. Just standing around doing absolutely nothing when we should be slinging and flinging like we do so often here. But there we go. Managed to clear through this weird little vault area. Let's just run away from you for the time being. Can take a couple hits, I guess. See if we can't split you. And perfect. That works too. Onwards we go. What do you think triggers the shifter to change? Do shifters tend to change more if you fight them or remain the same if you flee? That's interesting. I'm curious if there are any kind of subtle coding to it. Because sometimes it does seem like they're just rapidly shifting through forms, versus other times they do seem to be a bit more consistent. And it would almost make sense from a coding perspective, because if you're fighting them and they go through constant changes, you never finish the fight. Because they just keep healing up each time they change, right? So I could see it being just a bit of a quality of life thing, even. I'm curious. So let's see, how many large rocks do we have? That's enough. Let's start using those on the Hydra specifically. But yes, no, I'm very curious, Railbird, if there are any subtle mechanics there at play. There definitely could be, and potentially should be. Not too bad. So many Tengus. Seriously, it's like we're already in depths. Fortunately, we're totally prepared to deal with them and it ain't no thing, but still, not what I expect, to say the least. And more Tengus, of course. It's nice to use throwing weapons against these buddies, because even if you miss, you can end up hitting the one behind, and you're very likely to miss due to their ridiculous evasion stats. There we go. That reeks like a shapeshifter, right? I would hope so, at least. If they started exploring the main dungeon, slimes that is, then we're all in deep, deep trouble. And finally, we identify our first scroll of fear, which is too bad. I normally like to have a hefty stack of those around. One of my favorite escape options when you're trying your hardest not to waste a blinking scroll. Though, of course, that's always a risky proposition. You don't want to end up dying with blinking scrolls in your inventory. Especially in that way where you're actively choosing not to use them versus just not using them because you think you can handle it, like I do so often. But not too shabby. Some more large rocks is exactly what we'd hope for here. And scroll of identify. Let's get another potion going. Ooh, so that brings us down to 2 unidentified potions, hey? Out of 4. Oh wow, we have no potions of haste yet? Come on, game. Okay, we can drop Brilliance. In fact, let's just open up our drop menu here. Atropa is no longer useful, or as useful at this stage in the game, seeing as how almost everything will be able to resist the blinding effect. So we can stop carrying those buddies around. Polymorph we'll keep around because we've been facing so many shapeshifters. Enchant Weapon, Amnesia. Get thrown into the, at least temporary, trash. And let's keep her going here. Not too bad. And let's go through at least one more floor of the dungeon, and then we'll probably start thinking about our S branches here, getting our first couple of runes. Being cognizant of all these gosh darn Hydra pals. Don't want to accidentally chop off any heads with our claws. One disadvantage to being such a strong, clawy boy. But that it is all good. So we continue our way through the dungeon here. Ooh, and more large rocks. Love to see it. Skeletal Warriors are a little bit scary. In fact, especially if they don't come and I accidentally tab into them in a bad way. That's very scary. So maybe switch over to javelins to face these two. Make sure that I'm not getting hit too often by both of them at once. That's no fun. And perfect. Back to ye olde boomerangs. Instead of going through the effort of actually like bracketing through all of my quiver items, I should really use the, I think it's capital Q for that, right? Yeah, that would be probably smarter, but we do what we must here. Another acquirement scroll, and I have a whole lot of cash, so I think I am going to buy that. It's super expensive too, don't get me wrong. I usually see acquirement scrolls at half this price. I wonder if the shop owner would match it if I found another shop. But let's buy that, identify, and some more acid charges. I think I'm happy with all those. You essentially get infinite money throughout the course of a run with Gozag, so I don't mind splurging a little bit here or there. And what do we get? This time, a ring of resist poison that also has resist corrosion and evasion. That's a little bit tempting. We already have resist corrosion on a ring. That would free up our necklace slot if we didn't want to use Parfakud here. The amulet Parfakud. I guess what were the other options? Like trash. Oh my gosh, 550 gold. Don't insult me, game. Honestly, not too excited about any of these. I'm happy with a couple of them, but not too excited. Especially considering the fact that this gold acquirement is a third of the money that we spent to buy the gosh darn scroll in the first place. So I might pick the ring, and even if we don't use it right away, that might be nice for if we find a really sweet artifact amulet, we can guilt-free switch to that. And instead use our ring slot to give ourselves the resistance to poison that we bought that necklace for in the first place, or acquired it for. I think that might have been another acquirement. Again, just so many acquirements this game. It's been wild. And we finally identify our potion of haste. Not that it's a huge deal. I guess a Gozag follower is the one character that you don't mind not getting all the potions that you might otherwise want, because you can always just throw money at the problem. Again, greed is good, and it is the way out of every problem in the game. Let's see here. Shoals or Spider Nest? don't have fantastic AC. Pretty good shielding, and we have reflection. I guess we'll want to use our reflection amulet in shoals in particular. So, oh my gosh, that's actually somewhere where we will want to use this ring, because there are sea snakes. And so we want resistance to poison, and we want reflection ideally as well. So that works out perfectly. Nice. Just kind of stumbled into that one, and I'm happy with it. But regardless, we could start out in Speed Ray. Shoals is potentially very scary. I mean, slightly less again when you have both reflection and when you have a good shield score. You're a bit more likely to be able to make it through the heavy barrages that you come under. But still can be frightening, especially if you're not flying inherently. And geez, even with resistance to poison, these gosh darn spiders are just so venomous. In fact, do we have a nice little corridor yet? There, okay. Always important to know your escape routes, where you want to do all your fighting, especially against fast boys like this. There we go. Shoals tend to check willpower more so than Spider's Nest as well. That definitely is true, yeah. I guess considering, for the most part, it's considering how much you're worried about Mesmerize and Fear. Ideally, we shouldn't have to worry too much about it, though of course I am very much expecting to eat those words in a bit here. But in general, on a throwing character, we at least don't always have to be approaching or retreating from enemies. The retreating one being a little bit trickier because that may be a life or death situation, or change at least. So yeah, definitely is important to keep in mind though. There we go. Not too bad as we start off our journey into Spider. We have all the tools that we need at our disposal. When ghost moths show up, we do have our See Invisible, though of course that is a bit more relevant on a casting character. Let us bring y'all down here, please and thank you. Perfect. Perfect. I so often discount orb spiders completely, but there will come the day when one just absolutely destroys me because I'm not giving them nearly enough credit. What happened? Oh, we just blocked it. Okay. For a second there, I thought it went veering off into the wall, but that's all good. In fact, I would prefer not to set off that alarm trap. You gosh darn jumping spider. Get out of my head, please. But I guess if we must, we can at the very least start retreating up this way to a beautiful corridor. Down the lane. Awesome. Still have to worry about jumping spiders. Ooh, and that Moth of Wrath can immediately go suck it. Gosh darn it. 68% chance. Not good enough. But yeah, that's very scary. Raged spiders very much changed the dynamic. Oof. Hitting real hard here. So we could go for an early potion petition if we're feeling it. Can't throw anything while caught in the web. That sucks real bad. See, we could also just use a standard teleport scroll if we wanted to just reset this fight. We're no longer marked, I guess. I'm gonna do so. And then do some quick maths. So you do 18 damage. Good to know. So you're probably dealing... It's either 1.5 or 2 times. I like to always do 2 times just so I'm ahead of the curve a little bit. So that's 32 plus 28. So that's 60. Should be good. And we have 17 acid charges on our wand. So definitely not bad. Should have probably even thrown a couple of those at the Moth of Wrath instead of our javelins. And I might still throw one out here just to deal some extra damage. That teleport gets us out of that tricky situation. Ideally, everyone has settled down from their rage problems. But of course, the gosh darn Moth of Wrath came back the very next day. Shouldn't be wasting my silver javelins on this, but that was just laziness on my part where I didn't want to switch back the one more tab, the one more slot that it takes. Ooh, and we got confused. So I'm going to immediately take a curing. Don't mind that whatsoever as we get lethally poisoned. Holy crap. That hurts real bad. Well, we're not one hit away from death, so here's where I'm going to potion petition. And let's see, we could spend a whole lot of money. Because 840 gives us haste, brilliance, resistance, and might. So no heals, unfortunately. But the haste does allow us to potentially start walking away from this situation a little bit. I'd like to be only be hitting... Oh my gosh, can't talk. Only be hit by one spider at a time. Alternatively, we could risk it. With 525 gold, we get both types of healing, which is nice, and Berserk Rage, which gives us the speed, but we'd have to kill these buddies in front of us. And I don't think I can do XVs well in this menu. Unfortunately, I cannot. Because otherwise I'd check how much damage capabilities we're up against here to see if that's a possible plan. I guess not damage capabilities, but more so the percentage chance of us being able to hit enemies, because if we're able to kill them fast enough, then it may or may not be worth it. But we can probably just go big money on haste. Use up some of our own healing. Let's go for it. So I'm going to do 1 heal wounds, followed by curing to just stop this ridiculous poison. And now we're going super fast and we're mighted, which is essentially all the bonuses that we would get from rage anyway. And in fact, as everybody gets distracted by gold, we can just walk away a bit. 62% chance to hit this son of a gun. Let's get back to single wide corridor though. That's much better, even though still hitting harder than I would like. Again, it's so important to take out those moths of wrath, because spiders are totally fine on their own, but as soon as they're all enraged, things get real sketchy. Need to cure out of the whatchamacallit, confusion. And let's see, 36 is exactly, ooh, you do just over that in max damage. That's fun. And this jumping spider can definitely pounce us and potentially web us again, which sucks. Question is, do I go with a potion petition, hoping for heal wounds and maybe a curing to double up our healing, or just take one of our potions? I think I'm just going to take one of our potions. Play it a wee bit safe here. Also check, chances to evade are 40%. So about equal chance of hitting with our throwing stuff as with our punches, or our slices, I guess, to be more accurate. But on the other hand, we could also Mind Blast this son of a gun. 65% chance of working. Blast him. Oh, and now the rage runs out, of course. Of course. But all good. At least we survived to fight another day here. And there we go. Easy peasy. Never a doubt in my mind. We're saving the one blinking scroll that we found. I think we found 2 total. We might have used 1. All of the games that we played today are kind of blending into one another. Thank you, Railbird. Definitely closer than I would have liked in the first place. Should have been a little bit quicker in my efforts to take care of the Moth of Wrath. Not necessarily in terms of turn count, because I did try to kill it right away, but more so in regards to immediately resorting to, yeah, like ones of acid that have slightly more consistent damage than our javelins at this stage. And speaking of which, I actually haven't checked out my skills in an eternity here. Let's turn off fighting for the time being. We can even stop unarmed combat for a wee bit and just switch over to having evocations cranking up in the background. I'm going to unfocus throwing as well. We've got it up to the stage where it's almost min delay on all of our throwing weapons, so that's good on its own. Attack delay is to 0.7 even with our insufficient skill. That's pretty sweet. Let's take these 2 upstairs, shall we? don't want to be confused by the Tarantella, but otherwise we should be okay to take this fight. Perfect. And again, that's a poison that absolutely rocks us. Let's double check some damages here. 30 and claw twice for 15, so that's up to a theoretical 60. And of course I immediately forget to check out evasion chances and stuff, which I should. Well, let's finish this buddy off with an unavoidable attack then, shall we? Again, shouldn't die in one hit, though I will be so upset with myself if we die here. But of course, never didn't have it. And okie dokie, that's good to note that that's how our first Emperor Scorpion fight goes, because it's likely that our end vault will be filled to the brim with those Sons of Guns. At the very least, as long as we're able to slow these fights down, can take care of them for the most part. Not too bad. Boulder Beetles are really interesting. They must have very low the hit chance, right? Because their rolling charge seems so scary when you look at the numbers, but then it rarely does any damage. Sometimes it even seems to hit, actually, and it still has a low hit chance. I'm curious, maybe it's that it has a low number of dice, if that makes sense. So it has a very low minimum hit that it can hit for. But there are lots of tiny bits of minutia in the way that the game is coded that I'm not completely aware of in general, for sure. And that was nice to get the early kill on one of those wolf spiders, because that did save us a whole lot of trouble in the long run in terms of gold distraction. In fact, just leaving the gold on the ground here does a whole lot of work in that regard too, because it keeps the distraction going. It's a bit of a weird thing where it's actually a a bit of a what's the word I was looking for? A strange mechanic where if you leave them lying around, even if you change floors, you still have the distraction effect. I know that because the best mega ziggurat attempts have always involved leaving gold on the floor so that when you go into the next floor of the ziggurat, all the monsters will still be confused because the game considers that buff to still be running, which is interesting. And yeah, right away, Babs, I can definitely do that. Come back here, grab a victory. The one disadvantage to having this craft in my office, you have to ask me for it, Babs.
Thank you.
Go. Actually, probably should have used that opportunity to run and grab a refill for my drink, but I'll do that in a second here. We'll see if I accidentally get myself killed in spider first. Well, this is at least a much better place to be fighting. Always hate how few one-by-one corridors we find in spider here. Not quite as bad as swamp, don't get me wrong, but still not as nice of a layout as I otherwise might like. Especially since so many of the one-by-ones here are just dead ends, where we have to completely trap ourselves in order to take advantage of said corridor. Very scary stuff. Ooh, entropy weavers, you suck. I'm actually very curious. I've never done an in-depth dive into how the corrosion effects work in this game, because obviously resistance to corrosion does not completely guarantee you avoiding that effect. So I'm a little bit curious as to what exactly the percentages is. It might just be like a half chance. I guess the majority of resistances, a single pip of resistance does half the chance. But who really knows? As a squishy human fire elementalist in robe, if you allow a Boulder Beetle to hit, it usually does 30 plus damage to you. Okay. But that's still like, you know, that's a scary hit, don't get me wrong. I don't want to throw that out with the bathwater. but relative to the fact that they say they deal 64 damage or something, right? And then rolling charge is supposed to double that. So I'm always expecting a 100 plus hit, but maybe I only ever observe them when they're already rolling and that number has already been changed to double. So do they originally only have 30 some and it doubles to that 60 something number? That would definitely explain my confusion. But no idea if that's whatsoever accurate. And I shouldn't complain too much because I'm sure one of these days a Boulder Beetle is just going to obliterate me out of this world. I'm going to be very salty about it. In the way that I get salty, which is usually just to chuckle a bit and have a laugh. But, okay, where's my nearest hallway? Let us take you lovely speed race on a little jaunt down here. Don't want to get surrounded by any stretch of the imagination. Perfect. And so we still managed to continue somehow. Not dead yet, despite the dungeon throwing everything it can at us in that regard. So I guess what else is new? That's literally the point of the game. It's to die over and over again. Live, die, repeat. Oh, and I did have a sip of my drink, yeah. Left, yay! Oh, perfect. It did hit the rock wall. Love to see it. Corner the orb spider in their own little cubby hole there. Perfect. Let's finish her off here. I guess this is the best hallway to go to. There's one up to the left that was a little bit closer, but was one of those dead ends that we were mentioning earlier. So that is no good if we can avoid it. Otherwise, not too shabby. So many pieces of armor that we can never touch. Also, wait, what the heck are you? The double sword of conflict. Chaos. Interesting. I've never seen this one before. That's fun. I like the tile design there. That looks sweet. It's when the beetle gets in a double attack in the way of the rolling attack, and then a bite. It does 60 plus damage on rare occasions, but that does happen sometimes. Okay, good to know. Make sure to keep an eye out for it in the future at the very least. Guess we could have amped up our evasion a bit. I've been using the See Invisible for no reason this whole time. I should have at least probably had AC or evasion or something to help us out in the long run here. In fact, let's just bring you folks up and hope that one of our other downstairs to Spider 3 is looking a little bit safer than that, because you never want to be in the middle of a wide open room surrounded by spiders. So you just start burning the whole place down around you. Already extremely sick in the first couple turns of being down here. Fun stuff. Let's retreat back again to our one wide corridor. Trying to keep an eye on my health. Perfect. Not too bad. But I'm not going down that stair again either. Third time's the charm? At least the ghost moth is next to me this time. In fact, we need to take you upstairs right away. Okay, at least they enraged us this time and not all of the spiders. But still, not fantastic game. Not great. This is still probably our best bet. Yeah, in fact, because it always brings us up into a one wide corridor, this is actually incredible. As long as we don't get confused immediately upon getting down there, we should be able to rinse and repeat through this without too much of a care in the world. Switching over to boomerangs for these gosh darn orb spiders. Though again, our huge shield score, I think, helps out a whole lot with deflecting those projectiles. And let us exclude this door immediately here. And try to explore a little bit close to the stairs, if possible. Okay. Not looking so much like that's the case here. This is a wacky... Oh wow, a wacky looking spider floor. Huh.